Shri Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai 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 Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Hari Om to everybody. Om
Hari
Shri
Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram.
Hari Om. Pranam sir.
Pranam, pranam.
Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam, pranam.
Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam, pranam, pranam.
Namaskaram Swamiji.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram. So we were going through the in-depth study of In Quest of God, brought out in the form of 4 categories. First category is preparatory measures. Second category is ponder over simultaneously on various topics. We need not take, suppose, and the third one is sadhana, and the fourth is daily practice. Slowly we are trying to evolve, Now that we are running the 6th month, so far we are trying to consolidate all our earnings, which will help us to gather more and more. In-depth study is always a comma, it can never be a full stop. Till we drop the body, the in-depth study should go on. He will reveal to us what can be understood by us. If it is given to us in one go, we will not be able to assimilate or absorb. That is why he makes us to go through this journey, and in installments he is giving us, providing us. We forget. Again we have to remember. Day for yesterday we were again talking about the grace, about which we had elaborately dealt with. But somehow it doesn't stay with us. So by that, Papa is making us remember. Unless and until we try to imbibe, to focus, we will not be able to build up the next properly. We may be building it up, but not properly. So the first one was remembering the grace. The first and foremost step. Though we were reading In Quest of God, umpteen number of times, somehow we were not drawn to this word. It was about 2 years ago in 1920 that Ram first kindled, That word, Ram first kindled in Ramdas, it did not strike to us. Right from the beginning, the first line is bringing the word Ram. Remembering him and becoming subservient to him is the main clarion call given to us through this In Quest of God. Every time we thought, this is the one, this is the one. So when he made us to think about grace, hey, look here, that is the first and foremost thing. So you should try to remember him. He remembers you, you should try to remember him. He is pouring his grace on you, you should remember that he is pouring on you his grace. He is activating everything through you, but you should know that he is activating through you. Is it becoming clearer and clearer now? This particular word, Ram, first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas, makes us to think, oh, I forgot this. The basic thing I forgot. He has been kindling, I am not responding, I am not receptive. Because I am preoccupied with me and mine. If we can understand this, we have understood almost of In Quest of God. Because throughout these 37 chapters, we find only Ram, Ram, Ram. Somebody the other said, they counted 400 times. More than 10 times in a chapter. To hammer this into our brain. So it was about 2 years ago in 1920 that Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas a keen desire to realize his infinite love. There we start. Now slowly we are starting from where we are to start. And then next one was Ram. Because Ram is introducing Ram through the first article. And all these 37 chapters, Ram is there. So who is Ram? I should know. I had a hazy idea, because we have been associating with Anandashram and we have not seen any idol here, nor any ritual attached to the idol worship. So one thing we were knowing that it is not normally called the Saguna aspect of Lord Sri Ramachandra Murti. But what is the other one, that we have no idea. A few days back, because we were still struggling, Papa led us to Mataji's words to say that 11 times she proposed only to know the Nirguna Tattva. So Ram stands for the Nirguna Tattva. Just like love, compassion, truth, sacrifice, selflessness, all these things are impersonal in nature, no? So here also it is impersonal. Okay, if it is impersonal, how do we connect it with our spirit? That was the third point. Then we came to know, we have some idea about spirit because we have been taught by Dr. Bhujanga Shetty about various things that are going on inside our body, which we are not doing it, on which we have no control. So slowly that becomes clearer to us. We don't have to look up to anything, we have to close our eyes and look up to, look within. The heartbeat, the blood circulation, the digestion, the breathing, so many things, So Ram and spirit are one, okay. And then the fourth one is me and Ram. I am there, Whatever said and done, I am still there, powerful. So we are trying to understand the relation between me and Ram. And intellectually at least we know now that without Ram, I don't exist. And for which I should rely on him inside. In this connection, we thought it would be appropriate again to read a few lines of Swami Yathishwarananda of Ramakrishna Mutt. The real Guru who reveals to us the truth is in our own heart. And he is none other than the Divine himself. His message very often comes through some person who is also called Guru. Simple, no? Without complicating it, he beautifully puts it. The real Guru who reveals to us the truth is in our own heart. And he is none other than the Divine himself. His message very often comes through some person who is also called Guru. So the Divine is sometimes called the Guru of Gurus. We should not expect much from the outer Guru, but should try to be in tune with the inner Guru, the Divine in us, the soul of our souls, and draw knowledge and inspiration from him, capital H. Both the teacher and the pupil should try to be as much impersonal as possible. This becomes possible if the teacher tries to see the Divine in the student and the student also tries to feel the Divine in the teacher. Papa was seeing the Divine in all of us. We were not seeing. We were seeing only the form. This becomes possible only, both the teacher and the pupil should try to be as much impersonal as possible. This becomes possible if the teacher tries to see the Divine in the student and the student also tries to feel the Divine in the teacher. One should try to think of the other not as a person, but as a manifestation of the principle, P capital, and oneself also as such. This is the beginning of practical Vedanta. And then in due course, this ideal encompasses everything and every being. The Lord comes to me in the form of devotees, and I should try to see him in them more than their personalities. The student also should recognize the divine principle in the one who brings the message, and also in oneself who receives it. It is then that the spiritual teaching becomes fruitful, and one is able to realize the same divine presence in all. We'll go through it again. The trouble with most spiritual seekers is that they identify themselves with their own bodies and personalities and remain stuck here. If they have a spiritual teacher, they cling to the form and personality of the teacher also. This is nothing but materialism. Though given a spiritual color. However useful it may be in the beginning, this spiritual materialism must be transcended. But how to do it is the question. As one advances on the spiritual path, one must come to realize that the worshipper is a soul, and the deity that is worshipped is none other than Paramatman itself. The soul is, as it were, a part of the Paramatman, the infinite spirit. And the Guru also, in his true nature, is a divine manifestation through whom flows the divine grace, knowledge, love, bliss. The spiritual seeker should always remember that the idolizing of a human form and the blind worshipping of a human personality are a stumbling block in spiritual progress and is harmful to both the disciple and the Guru. A true teacher is a free soul and would very much like to see that all his disciples stand on their own feet, realize their divine nature, solve their individual problems, developing a cosmic outlook. It is for this reason that the wise spiritual teacher deprecates the idea of blind personal service, which is very common in India. Most of the disciples forget that the following of the ideal and the living of the life are much more important than attending on the Guru in person. This danger of falling into the rut of the Guru cult, we can avoid only by meditating on the formless infinite spirit, who is also infinite knowledge, infinite love, and infinite bliss. Again, when we return to the plane of personality, we should stress more the spirit and not the form. In order to avoid self-deception, it is good to meditate on the infinite spirit, merging all forms into it, and try to be established in the supreme consciousness through repeated practice. This helps not only the student, but also the teacher toward the realization of perfect freedom and peace. Somebody would have had the privilege of going through scriptures. Somebody would have the privilege of attending so many Satsang. Somebody would have the privilege of meeting Mahatmas. And naturally, the tendency will be there to share this when asked. But while sharing, these are all forgotten. So he says, the one who is sharing and the one who is shared, both of them should feel, always try to connect up with the impersonal aspect. A great saint came about 20 years back. He was staying here for more than 10-15 days. He was staying with us in Sadhana Kudir. One person who writes a lot of books on the various life and teachings of Mahatmas, a noble person. He was talking about the uniqueness of Anandashram, where here, the talking is less and practice is more, he was telling. He was telling chanting of God's name. Whether it is on the superficial plane or on the deeper interplane or in between the level, still that is the one that goes on. And it is because of that people come here. People come here initially not because of any lecture. Immediately the saint turned towards him and asked him, "Are you joining the chanting? Either in the bhajan hall or in the Samadhi Mandir, or are you silently doing it by yourself?" Suddenly he kept quiet. We were there with him. It was an eye-opener for all of us. The person who writes, suddenly, he forgets. Unknowingly. He's also a noble person, has been associating with ashrams and mutts only. He has met a lot of people. It was he who brought the Swami also. Because he was pretty old, he cannot independently move about. But the moment he asked, he said, "Yes, I don't do that." Then he said, "Don't say then. You say, this is what I understand, but I have not been able to do it." I find when people come here, this is your inference. You can say it is the nama that is attracting the whole people. You can say that we feel that it is the nama that is attracting the people, rather than any course or any series of lectures or something like that, or a very curriculum or a systematized, covering up of portions. Nothing of that sort. Here it is, starting is Ram Nam, ending is Ram Nam. Starting Ram Nam probably with properly not having understood, ending Ram Nam with proper understanding. So, though this had happened 20-25 years back, when we read this, we remember that. Both should be, It is in order to avoid self-deception. It is good to meditate on the infinite spirit, merging all forms into it, and try to be established in the supreme consciousness through repeated practice. This helps not only the student, but also the teacher towards the realization of perfect freedom and peace. A very, very thought-provoking point, Even today, one devotee with all his love and faith, he sent us an email that we have an Ashtotaram of Param Puja Papa. Even somebody had also composed in Kannada, we don't remember. Something like Suprabhat. No, something like Suprabhat. So the Ramdas Gita, something like that. So then once we were requesting Swamiji, many people may not know Kannada, so whether it has been translated into English, whether it is necessary. Swamiji said, enough books are there, that is enough. Let us not add anything more. And today also we replied, it can be done. But we should always remember what Papa has told us. What did Papa tell us? When Puja Mataji Papa says, have Ramdas in your thoughts as the impersonal, immutable, deathless cosmic spirit, and give up attachment to external forms. Directly you do this, you will attain liberation and immortal joy and peace within. Don't substitute a golden chain for an iron one. Both are cause of bondages. Yesterday we happened to go through the gospel in the evening at Sadhana Kudir. So a group of devotees from Yogi Maharaj had come yesterday, So somebody was asking when was his visit. So we said you can take up the gospel, I'll show you. So in the first volume, it has been recorded. It has not been recorded as Yogi Ji, but as a Bihari, an odd Bihari. That's what starts. So in that, many of you might remember, when Papa was emphasizing on this to him, he was very much attached to the form of Papa and Mataji. Beyond that, he cannot think anything else. So when he was insisting, Papa said, that will not help you, same word, it will not help you. Then he said, I am not for this Nirguna Nagaraga. I am for this Saguna Rupa, Aradhana. So he was not able to understand it even when Papa repeatedly told him here and then later on in Bhavanagar. But he was very plain. He said, I am unable to go along with the Nirguna Tattva. I am after this Saguna Tattva. But Saguna Tattva is not wrong, but it cannot take us beyond level. That's what we have understood from Papas. Though Papa has clearly written, how many of us have understood this, He clearly mentions here. First he said Ramdas never joined any organization for his spiritual growth. Guru within him mysteriously guided him and made everything easy for God realization. Then he found that the best rules to be followed were those which the inner Guru set for him from time to time. It is clear that our guide in such matters must be the Guru within us and not without. We are reading. How many times, And then Mataji's clarity. When Mataji said, whenever I thought of God as Ram, I felt God was away from me. But when I thought of God as Papa, I felt his nearness. So I went and told Papa accordingly. Then Papa said to me, if you can't think of him as Ram, dwell on him as Papa. At the same time, beloved Papa wanted us to connect with his impersonal aspect. Have Ramdas in your thoughts as the impersonal, immutable, deathless cosmic spirit. and give up attachment to external forms. Directly you do this, you will attain liberation and immortal joy and peace within yourself. Don't substitute golden chain for an iron one. Both are causes of bondage. The same thing is brought out by Yathishwarananda Maharaj. They are indeed blessed who get the guidance of an illumined soul. However, it is not enough to come in contact with a guru and receive some instruction from him. You should follow his teachings with great faith. But you should not get too much attached to him emotionally and cling to his outer form. A true teacher wishes his disciples to love God more than himself and to look upon him only as an instrument of the divine. The real Guru who reveals to us the truth is in our own heart. And he is none other than the divine himself. His message very often comes through some person who also is called Guru. So the divine is sometimes called the Guru of Gurus. We should not expect much from the outer Guru, but should try to be in tune with the inner Guru, the divine in us, the soul of our souls, and draw knowledge and inspiration from him, capital H. Both the teacher and the pupil should try to be as much impersonal as possible. This becomes possible if the teacher tries to see the divine in the student also tries to feel the divine in the teacher. So in quest of God, the in-depth study reveals, nowhere Papa was clinging on to an outer guru. Though Ram was guiding him throughout, whenever he had doubts, he again he connects himself with the Guru, inner Guru only, Ram. There is none else other than Ram and Ramdas, With that background, we should read this, or with this background, we should read that. In-depth study reveals all these things to us. Whenever Papa was requested to stay in any ashram, he declined. Not because of any disrespect, but the need was not felt. Because he is with him, Ram is with him always. Then where is the need to join an organization to remember Ram? In other words, Papa is telling us, by the time you complete, you feel that you have done enough on in quest of God, you will no longer need the book. You should feel his presence within. You should feel his guidance within. In untold words, he is now revealing all these things to us. Then only the real in-depth study has taken place. Just like that Swami asked, you are reading, discussing, everything is there, but if you are not aware of him, when we talk so much thing about Nama chanting, we are chanting, but we are not feeling that he is making us to chant. And we know the result for ourselves. both the teacher and the pupil should try to be as much impersonal as possible. This becomes possible if the teacher tries to see the divine in the student, and the student also tries to feel the divine in the teacher. One should try to think of the other not as a person, but as the manifestation of the principle, P capital, and oneself also as such. This is the beginning of practical Vedanta. Then in due course, the ideal encompasses everything and every being. The Lord comes to me in the form of devotees, and I should try to see Him in them more than their personalities. Ganeshana, when you are sharing about Bhagavan, must be 20 years back, 20, 25 years back. He was here for a month. Every day he used to share some anecdotes. One day he was telling, during this, what is that? Guru, Giri Pradakshina. On the Deepavali day or some important day is there, Kartik. So the Sarvadhikari Swamiji, with all good intention, he did not want Ramana Bhagavan to be cramped, so many people will rush. So before Bhagavan Day, he put some barricade, some benches or something that way. So evening, they will start coming. When the Sarvadhikari left, Bhagavan came and sat before the barricade. So when people started coming, Sarvadhikari thought, what is this? I have done so many arrangements. Then Bhagavan said, they are not coming to see me. They are coming to give me the darshan of them. We remember now this. The Lord comes to me in the form of devotees, and I should try to see Him in them more than their personalities. Where are we? The student also should recognize the divine principle in the one who brings the message, and also in oneself who receives it. It is then that the spiritual teaching becomes fruitful and one is able to realize the same divine presence in all. In Tamil சொல்லுவாளே மண்டையில் அடிச்சுக்க தான் வேணும். How many times we have read but we have not understood.
Swamiji, to Ramana Bhagavan, Arunachala was both Nirguna and Saguna Brahman. Am I right, Swamiji?
He was always reveling in that, no? So we have to infer that to him there was no difference. From all that we go through one by one, he always says there is nothing to be realized. You are that, no, it finished, as if it is so simple. There is no starting point. That means, he got established in it. Never he moved out of the place. To him, this Sarguna, Niguna, nothing was there. As the sense of individuality only says they are giving me a darshan, no? The Lord is coming through those forms to give me the darshan. Just like Papa was motivated by Ram to go out on 27th December. There was no need, God is everywhere. But still he was prompted to go and have the privilege of seeing him everywhere. Similarly, there was no need for Bhagavan to go anywhere. But when people started giving, he gets the joy, bliss.
Thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om.
Hari Om. In the other day we were reading, in World is God. Papa said there are two roles Ram has given to Papa. One is the Nirguna Nirvigar, as a witness. And the second one as an actor, sense of individuality. Both. So here we have been asked, the Lord comes to me in the form of devotees, and I should try to see Him in them more than their personalities. The student also should recognize the divine principle in the one who brings the message, and also in oneself who receives it. That means constant remembrance. Now we get some idea about constant remembrance, Constancy in what? Constancy in this, recognizing the truth. It is then that the spiritual teaching becomes fruitful and one is able to realize the same divine presence in all. The trouble with most spiritual seekers is that they identify themselves with their own bodies and personalities and remain stuck there. I am so and so. If they have a spiritual teacher, they cling to the form and personality of the teacher also.
Swamiji. Actually, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, and so on, the Nirguna Brahma, Swamiji, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, and Padre, Nina, Nirguna Brahma. Personal
Guru Brahma.
Bhagavan would the three different ways of roles he is performing. Guru Sakshat Param Devam Tasmai Shri Param Brahma. All Mahatmas have tried their level best to inject these ideas through many slogas, Every day, Mataji, when we start the Guru Stuti, we all must be remembering Brahmanandam, It is there in the first Ilya. First itself, it is Nirguna Tattvam, Brahmanandam Paramasugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadiraksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhudam Bhavatitam Trigunarehitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Brahmanandam Paramasugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Adiraksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhudam Bhavatitam Trigunarehitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Now it is becoming clearer and clearer. Again we will forget, That is the problem. Why? Now it is answered. Because we identify ourselves with our own bodies. So naturally we will see the body and get stuck there. As one advances on the spiritual path, one must come to realize that the worshipper is a soul and the deity that is worshipped is none other than Paramatman himself. The soul is, as it were, a part of the Paramatman. And the Guru also, in his true nature, is a divine manifestation through whom flows the divine grace, knowledge, love and bliss. The spiritual seeker should always remember that the idolizing of a human form and the blind worshipping of a human personality are a stumbling block in spiritual progress and is harmful to both disciple and the Guru. A true teacher is a free soul and would very much like to see that all his disciples stand on their own feet, realize their divine nature, and solve their individual problems, developing a cosmic outlook. That means we will be able to solve our problems when we raise ourselves from the individual level to the cosmic level, encompassing everybody. It is for this reason that the wise spiritual teacher deprecates the idea of blind personal service, which is very common in India. Most of the disciples forget that the following of the ideal and the living of the life are much more important than attending on the Guru in person. This danger of falling into the rut of the Guru cult we can avoid only by meditating on the formless infinite spirit, who is also infinite knowledge, infinite love, infinite bliss. Again, when we return to the plane of personality, we should stress more the spirit, not the form. In order to avoid self-deception, it is good to meditate on the infinite spirit, merging all forms into it, and try to be established in the supreme consciousness through repeated practice. This helps not only the students, but also the teacher toward the realization of perfect freedom and peace. So these are one more dimension. Throughout the 37 chapters, Papa is only dealing with Ram. Whenever, due to old habits, he feels to share or consult or seek guidance from, he talks to the inner reality only. Second chapter. Now from the narrow pond of a worldly life, Ram had lifted up his slave to throw him into the extensive ocean of a universal life. But to swim in the wide ocean, Ram knew Ramdas wanted strength and courage, for gaining which Ram intended to make his ignorant and untrained slave to pass through a course of severe discipline, and this under his direct guidance and support. Direct guidance and support. So one night, while engaged in drinking in the sweetness of his name, Ramdas was made to think in the following strain, the consultation, seeking guidance, not outside. O Ram, when thy slave finds thee at once so powerful, so loving, and that he who trusts thee can be sure of true peace and happiness, why should he not throw himself entirely on thy mercy, which can be possible only by giving up everything he called mine? So the first lesson is he is consulting, he is seeking guidance from the inner Guru, Ram. And if I am to rely on him always, my original, thinking, planning, safeguarding, all these will not be there, when he is with me. So this in-depth study again and again and again reminds us only this. All the preparatory measures and what are to be pondered over, what are to be taken as a sadhana, what are to be your daily practice, it should all culminate into constant remembrance of the truth that he is guiding, he is leading, he is taking care of. This can be sure of true peace and happiness. Why should he not throw himself entirely on thy mercy, which can only be possible by giving up everything he called mine? Thou art all in all to thy slave. Thou art the sole protector in the world. Men are deluded when they declare, I do this, I do that, this is mine, that is mine. All, O Ram, is thine. All things are done by thee alone. Thy slave's one prayer to thee is to take him under thy complete guidance and remove his highness. Second chapter. So putting in constant effort to subdue me and trying not to undertake spiritual disciplines for worldly achievements. Because then, to put it bluntly, we are deceiving ourselves, We say it's a spiritual practice. The real spiritual practice is handing over everything to him. If we make use of the spiritual practice for again our ephemerals, then self-deception, So this is how the first part, preparatory measures, comes to a close.
Swamiji? In the preface, before the first chapter, Papa has clearly mentioned at least about 6 points on subduing the ego. Submit, complete surrender, humbling ourselves, subdue our egoism, self-assertion to be. So many 6 points at least.
The first article itself.
Yes, Swami.
Correct. Everything is here. That which is blocking us has been clearly brought out here in the first article itself. To wake up from this illusion of forms, he is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. To wake up from this illusion of forms is to realize at once the unity or love of Ram. Love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in the world. Because Ram is in all is in Ram, and Ram is all in all. To realize this great truth, We who through ignorance feel as separate individuals should submit ourselves to the will and working of that infinite power, who is one and all-pervading. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we lose consciousness of the body, which keeps us aloof from him, and find ourselves in a state of complete identification, union with him, who is in us and everywhere around us. In this condition, hatred, which means consciousness of diversity, ceases. Love, consciousness of unity, is realized. This divine life can be attained by humbling ourselves to such a degree as to totally subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. One thing, we all of us can observe now. Papa is not making us to move further, no? All these things we are telling. Again, go to the first page, You have not understood the first page. Talking. And where are you? You have not understood even the first page. So we will all take note of this. Humbling ourselves to such a degree as to totally subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. I am only a part and parcel of you, Okay, every day he reminds. He is not allowing us to move. So tomorrow we will take up knowing your and the world origin. That's also important. This will all add, ponder simultaneously on knowing your and the world's origin. Try to enter into the mysterious origin of your and the world Leela. Just now, Yathishwarananda Swamiji said, so here there is no difference between the Guru and the Shishya. Guru is the God. God has entrusted the Guru to convey this message to us. He is inside to know that he is inside. I go to a teacher, now I understand to some extent that he is seated within me. To know him, my own self-effort has not helped. So he sends a messenger through the outer Guru. Not to know the Guru, not to know the scripture, not to know anything else, but to know that he is seated within. So he is a messenger, Guru is a messenger of God, and we the receiver of that message. In both of us, this Ram is there. Ram is sending the message that he is within us through a messenger called the Guru. To whom he is sending? To his creation who is unaware of his presence. So from different angles we have to see now. So that somehow we get rooted in the truth that he is within, he is within, he is within, he is within. Let us not get stuck with anything that is outside. How clearly Mataji mentioned this, and how in this context we remember the words of Puja Mataji. I wanted all you to read it 11 times so that your mind would turn within to Nirguna Brahman. There is a special reason for Papa making me to ask you to read 11 days. It is intended to take you within. You may not attain Papa within you on the 11th reading, but you will at least have started going within. It is like entering the ashram gates. Once you are within the gates, you have nothing to fear. Likewise, once you turn your gaze within, you have nothing to worry. What an important message Mataji has given to us, and how we have unknowingly not given due consideration for the same. Unknowingly, not that we. It is just like entering the ashram gates. Once you enter, when you are within the gates, you have nothing to fear. Likewise, once you turn your gaze within, you have nothing to worry. Anybody would like to say anything? Nothing. And Maharaj just asked us to go within. What is the use of telling, Still, is there anything?
Swamiji.
Oh.
Beginning into the years of the IQT and Samam Bonam. Very nice. Swamiji.
Yes?
நம்மளுக்கு உள்ள இருக்காருன்னு தெரியுது.
தெரியுது.
பட் அவர் தானே சம்ஜி நம்மள ஃபுல் பண்ணி அந்த இதுல இருந்து விடுவிக்கிறது அவர்கிட்ட தானே இருக்கு.
पापा சொல்லுவார் कंबली छोड़ता नहीं இல்லையா? நம்ம கையில் அதை கட்டிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோமே, நானும் என்னோடும். அதை அழிக்க அது ஊரண்டது நம்ம தானே. அவர் தான் சேராருன்னு வந்தால் இந்த கொஸ்டினே வராதே. அவர் தான் செய்யறாருங்கிறத நம்ம ஒரு நிமிஷம் மேலே போடுறோம். அப்படிதான் நம்மளை அப்படி வந்துட்டு இல்லையே, வந்தால் அந்த கொஸ்டின் வராது. அவர் தான் செய்யறார். The very fact that he is doing everything, it is a realization point. It is not an intellectual assimilation. We have assimilated, no doubt, but we have not experienced. So until such time the struggle will be there. But at least now he is guiding us. Though we have been indifferent, unknowingly we have been indifferent. We have not been prioritizing, we have not been focusing. But in spite of that, he brings so many dimensions through which this important point is hammered into our brain. This is the cream of inquest of God, no? You would have read it many times. We never knew that 400 times he has repeated Ram, Even now when we say it is not for the statistics, how many times he mentioned Ram, of course we are to know that we are counting, that's all. But it is not for counting or statistics, How many times he remembers, he brings the God dimension so that the individual is not given any room, The sense of individuality is not given any room to enter in. Otherwise, given a small hole, this fellow will go in. So that is why, to remind us, many chapters you will know it has only two pages or 3 pages. Some chapters will have 3-4 pages, that's all. Mostly, it will be 2 pages, 3 pages or 4 pages at best. In that he is mentioning so many times Ram. Now we are slowly realizing it is only to make us understand that we are putting all this barricade, Ram, so that the me and mine will not stealthily enter. So that is the central message of In Quest of God. Every day we say this is that is that. We keep on changing it. Okay. Now today he makes us to know this is the central theme. This is also the central theme. Okay.
Swamiji.
Oh. Chalungo.
Swamiji. Almost every value or every point has been mentioned at least twice in the book. Sometimes more than that.
Repetitive. Then only we will remember. Even yesterday what we said we will not remember today, no? So this should be there. Hammering should be there. We have to keep on repeating what we have been telling. Just like we are repeating Ramnam, Why are we repeating Ramnam? Only to make us understand that he is there. It is not for the sake of Ramnam.
It is connected with the eternal reality.
In one of his letters, 2 of his letters he has mentioned clearly, but we are not highlighting it because we have not yet reached that stage. Once he says, even for this thing, we should not be depending upon Ramnam. Because anything that is dependent upon any outside is not the correct one. In another place he says, you should chant, sing, no doubt, for a certain period, then it should stop. So like that, he keeps on reminding, and then finally, not that what you have to remember, what we have been telling you should remember him. So it is boiling to that point, Ultimately, it is to remember him. Not only remember, normally we understand remember in a different way. This remembrance is not that. That is why once he says remembrance, darshan, grace, everything is one and the same, Becoming conscious of his presence. These very words are put through our mouth by him, so that the sense of individuality given by him becomes aware of his presence behind the sense of individuality. Pranam, pranam, pranam. Pranam, pranam. Let us see what is stored for tomorrow. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai